One thing we have to know about God, it applies for Israel, and I think it applies for every one of us. Israel's conduct does not alter God's character and God's decisions and God's elections. I'll say it again. Israel's conduct does not alter God's decision. Just the same as your conduct doesn't alter who God is. If you do something against God, that doesn't mean that God will change his mind. God is faithful. God stays the same. We read earlier Deuteronomy 7 verse 6, but I want us to read a bit further. Let's start from verse 6 and read till verse 9. I'll read again from verse 6. For you are a holy people to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be people for his own possession out of all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love on you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any of the peoples, for you were the fewest of all the peoples, but because the Lord loved you and kept the oath which he swore to your forefathers. The Lord brought you out by mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that the Lord your God, he is God, the faithful God, who keeps his covenant and his loving kindness to 1,000 generations with those who love him and keep his commandments. So the purpose of the election was to bless all the families of the earth. But the reason we're giving the reason in verse 9. The reason, and I'll read it again, know therefore that the Lord your God, he is God. So it's to testify of who God is, not because of Israel, not because it was big or smart or whatever. It's just to show the world, to give the world a sign of God's love, but more than anything, and this is the take-home message of this entire preaching, of God's faithfulness. The whole thing about Israel and Israel's election is just to show us how faithful God is. We have a faithful God, and God's faithfulness is eternal. It's always, in spite of everything or anything we would do as people. And we're giving a very strong proof of that in Jeremiah 31, verses 35 to 37. If you have any doubts about God's faithfulness, open this verse. Jeremiah 31, verses 35 to 37. Thus says the Lord, who gives the sun for light by day, and the fixed order of the moon and the stars for light by night, who stirs up the sea so that its waves roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. If this fixed order departs from before me, declares the Lord, then the offspring of Israel also will cease from being a nation before me forever. Thus says the Lord, if the heavens above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out below, then I will also cast off all the offsprings of Israel for all that they have done, declares the Lord. Wow, what a statement. Has any of you been outside last night? Have you seen some stars? They were there, even if it was a bit cloudy. Have you seen them the night before? Are you going to see them tonight? I hope so. I traveled, my host took me on one of the coastlines here. I know you have many coastlines from every direction, coast roads, but it was a beautiful scenery, and the sea, the ocean is, wow. It's really amazing. And looking at those waves that keep hitting the shore, but never crossing it. It's like there's an imaginary border there, and no matter how much the sea roars, they don't go over that border, as if someone is stopping them. That's the Lord. And the Lord tells us here that as long as those things exist, Israel, as a nation, will continue, flickers again, will continue to stand before him. So, God speaks about unshakable faithfulness. And his faithfulness is independent of the people and of their actions. No matter what we do, God remains faithful. And God's faithfulness is dependent on only one thing. What is that? God himself.